What's up guys, Brent here, and today we are reviewing the Pure Cycles Volta 8-speed electric bike. But before I get started on this review, I want to show you where I'm at. I rode over to a place called Quarry Park today. This is local to where I'm at, and they've got some really cool stuff here, so check this out. They are rebuilding an old quarry that has been active since like 2005, and they're turning it into like an amusement park of sorts. So they're gonna have like rock climbing, they're going to have like obstacle courses, a free fall area. I'm just gonna show you that real quick right here. So that's what it looks like down there. They got a little pond, it's really dirty right now. There's gonna be a waterfall right there. That thing out in the distance is gonna be like a huge obstacle course. That kind of mount right there, I think is gonna be either a zip line or a free fall area, I'm not sure. Maybe that's the free fall right there. They got some more stuff back this way, another like obstacle course type thing. Anyways, just cool stuff, cool area. Just wanted to show you this real quick before we get started. But okay, let's dive into this review. All right, so I found a nice shaded area, which is great because it's like 1 billion degrees here in California today. It's been a really weird hot spell recently, but it's all good. We're not here to talk about the weather. We are here to talk about the Pure Cycles Volta 8-speed electric bike. So this is the second bike from Pure Cycles that I've reviewed. The other one was the single speed from Volta. This is going to be really similar to that bike with one key difference, of course, and it's going to be that we've got this 8-speed derailleur here, SRAM X4, 44 tooth chainring in the front, 11 to 32 spread in the back. And I put a lot of miles on this bike and the single speed, and it's been really fun. It's just a really cool, compact bike, super lightweight, 37 pounds, and it's just been a lot of fun to ride. And working with the company, Pure Cycles, has been great. These guys have dealers pretty much all around the US, Canada, parts of Europe, which is cool because that means, like, look, if you guys want to ride this bike before you actually buy it, you know, there might be a shop nearby. You can actually check it out instead of just having to do like a direct order only thing where there are no physical shops and you have to have it delivered right to your door. So that's kind of a cool option. The only downside though is that this bike only comes in one frame size here, 20 inches. And that 20 inches sounds like it might be a full size, you know, frame, but really this thing is a compact bike. It's interesting. I just got done recently reviewing the M2S Ultra, which is a full size, you know, like 72 inches long, big old 26-inch fat tires, and hopping on this thing, it's just like, wow, it's interesting going from something that big to something this compact. It's so nimble, it's so zippy, and it's just a fun bike. So yeah, let's dive into the specs of this thing, talk about this bike, and then later on we'll do a ride portion. So one thing I want to talk about right off the bat here with this bike is the motor. So this is a 250 watt hub motor here. And what's interesting about this motor is that it's a gearless hub motor as opposed to a geared hub motor, which is typically what I see. Couple of, you know, big differences here between the gearless hub motors and the geared. Basically, this one doesn't have the gearing, right, that the geared ones do. So it's magnetic. And what's cool about that is it allows first and foremost for regenerative braking. So whenever I hit the brake levers on this thing, either brake levers, whenever I depress them, it's going to actually, before it even starts braking, just a slight depressing right here is going to activate the regenerative braking on the motor. And it's going to slow the bike down. It's going to use the motor to actually slow it down. It's going to feed energy back into the battery, which is great because this battery here is a little bit below average. We'll talk about it here later on, but it's a 42 volt system. Batteries here in the top tube, only about 240 watt hours of juice, so not a lot. So having, you know, this option to kind of feed a little bit of energy back into the batteries, that's cool. The efficiency on these is not going to be super high. The numbers vary, guys, anywhere from like 3% to like 10%, I think, depending really on just the setup, how heavy the bikes weigh, stuff like that. So I wouldn't expect to get a whole lot of juice out of this, but at least it's something, and that's kind of cool. It's better than just wasting the energy altogether, right? The other cool thing about this gearless motor is the roll-on of power. When I start pedaling on this, it's really smooth. It's just a really buttery smooth roll-on of power. It's just nice and smooth, instead of a lot of times with the geared hub motors, especially when there's a cadence sensor involved. This one here is a torque sensor, but sometimes with the geared hub motors, it's kind of like it's just an on or off, you know, it's just a full power or basically no power. And with this, it really feels like the power output corresponds really accurately to how much pressure I'm putting on the cranks, which is it's just really cool. The other thing about this, the hub motor, because it's gearless, is it's going to be super quiet. And I'll show you guys some ride shots later on, try to get the camera real close to the motor here, but it's almost silent. It's really quiet. It's one of the quietest motors I've ever tested so far. Really the only downside, I think, to a gearless hub motor like this is it's going to be, generally speaking, not as much torque as a geared hub motor. And you know, I think this thing has 80 Newton meters of torque, but even still, it just does not feel as torquey, and that's kind of just because it's a gearless hub motor. Thankfully, we got these 22-inch wheels, a little bit shorter, so that is going to give the motor somewhat of a mechanical advantage. But for a guy like me who weighs about 190 pounds, I'm typically carrying this backpack with me here. This weighs probably 25, 30 pounds, just depending on what kind of gear I have in it. You know, I can feel the lack of oomph with this bike, but on the other hand, like I said, that roll-on of power is nice and smooth, and it feels like it's giving me a nice smooth power all the way through, you know, the various RPM. So when I start out, it feels like it's the same amount of power as opposed to when it tops out at the 20 mile per hour top speed. This is a pedal assist only, guys, so you've only got the pedals down here, no throttle, which normally, you know, I want to have a throttle on my electric bikes, but honestly, I kind of like not having a throttle here. It forces me to move my legs a little bit with this bike. And I really like that. I appreciate it. I mean, I think the philosophy of use for this bike is just, it's simple, it's easy, it's intuitive. I just turn it on, hop on, and pedal, and that's really it. So going back down here to the rear derailleur here, a couple of things I like about this. We got this steel insert for the dropout back here. It's just going to add some rigidity, some strength to the frame. Just help kind of keep this thing just going strong for a long time, increase the longevity. The derailleur here is a SRAM X4, so that's kind of a step up from their entry level, the X3. Again, 11 to 32 teeth in the back here. So one thing though about this is a lot of times I'll see a steel derailleur guard kind of comes out like this and then pops down. It just kind of protects the derailleur from strikes, you know, and we don't have that right here, so it's just going to make that a little bit more susceptible, I think, to maybe if I go off a curb, if I do accidentally get myself into a position where I could get a strike, instead of hitting maybe the derailleur guard, it might hit the derailleur itself. So just something I want to caution you guys, just be careful with that, just kind of keep that in mind while you're riding. But going back to just the overall, the weight of this bike is something that I really appreciate. Again, this is 37 pounds, which is pretty lightweight. And it's really well balanced. So the batteries are here in the top two, and we do have the motor here in the back, which does make it a little back heavy, but not that bad. Even still, I can pick it up pretty much in the center of the frame. Just pick it right up like that, and it's not that difficult at all. It feels well balanced. And one of the things I generally like about having a throttle is when I try to go upstairs, it allows me to kind of boost the bike up the stairs. But like something like this, wouldn't be a big deal, just a couple of steps, but at my apartment where it's like a whole story, it makes it easier. But with this bike, you know, it's going down and up a couple of steps, carrying it, it's just not that bad. And again, just something I appreciate. It's a well-balanced bike, it's lightweight, and it's compact, and this is like a cool bike, I think, for people maybe who have like an RV, people who are traveling. Maybe you could just throw it right in the back of like of an SUV without having to need a bike rack. Like somebody like me, like I don't have a bike rack, I just have a truck, so it doesn't really matter how big or small the bike is. But if I did have like an RV, or if I was limited on space, I would definitely like this just because of how compact it is. The compactness, like I said earlier, it does make it feel really zippy and really nimble, but it kind of makes it feel a little squirrely as well, especially at higher speeds. So I do like that this thing tops out at 20 miles per hour, because around there, like it's for me, it's hard to ride with no hands. I don't know if that's important for you guys, but it's just, you know, you got the shorter wheelbase, it's just the smaller wheels, it's just not quite as stable as a full-size bike. I think that's fine, because that's really not what it's supposed to be about. Something that's interesting is there's a lot of kind of unique and proprietary design features on this bike. So like coming down here, we'll look at the stem, and you see that the control center is built right into the stem. It's welded like onto the handlebars. And same thing with this front basket here. It's also welded onto this one, it's like this one piece on the handlebars right here. That's really cool because it means there's nothing that's gonna rust over time, no bolts to come loose. It's just not going anywhere. This thing is not going anywhere. The downside, I think, to having this basket attached to the handlebars is, check this out. You know, as I turn, especially at lower speeds where I have to turn more to get around a corner or something, this basket is going to turn along with the handlebars, and that's just, it means that if I have cargo in here, it's going to be a little bit more susceptible to falling out, especially if I don't strap it down. So when I have had cargo in here, like I've taken this thing grocery shopping quite a few times, I always strap my cargo down, my grocery bag, whatever, just so it doesn't fall out, because like I said, I mean, if I don't, it will fall. The other thing about this basket is, I like it. Personally, I do like it. It's got this nice kind of bamboo deck right here in the bottom. It's pretty small. It really only fits a little bit of cargo. Like I said, one grocery basket, or one grocery bag, it fits fine, but really not a lot more than that. The other thing here is going to be the headlamp. The headlamp is great because it does integrate, again, kind of right into the handlebars here. Check that out. It's got 2 LEDs, which is awesome. So it's got one LED for throw and one LED for spill. So what that means is one of the LEDs gives me a nice kind of big, bright, dispersed light pattern, and then the other LED is more of a ball, and it throws farther. So it gives me a spill pattern, and it gives me kind of a tight beam pattern for a little bit of distance. And it actually does a pretty good job of not only increasing visibility at night, but also illuminating my path, which I find is kind of rare on the headlamps that are on electric bikes. So I really do like this one. However, again, one of the cool things about the position here, it's kind of integrated into the stem. So when I turn the handlebars, it's going to turn the headlamp as well. So it's going to let me look where I'm going. I like that. However, when I put cargo in this basket, especially, again, going back to like grocery bags, because that's primarily what I've been using this for, is going to the grocery store, it's pretty easy to block this headlamp with the cargo, and it kind of defeats the purpose. So it's just, you know, pros and cons, just being nitpicky here, but just trying to point out everything for you guys to try to give you a complete picture here. Handlebars are pretty clean on this, just not a whole lot going on. Just, I think, goes back to that simplicity, ease of use for this bike. Got the shifter here on the right hand side, brake levers on both sides, and then I like that this bell here is integrated into this brake cluster. Just a nice little bell, little flick bell, but where it's located, it just makes it really easy for me to access. Like when my hand is on the grip here, it's just like my finger naturally rests on the bell. So I like that position here compared to some of the flick bells that are separate. People put them on the frame. To me, it's just not as streamlined, not as pretty looking, and not as easy to use either. So back to the brakes though, like I mentioned, when I do depress the brakes, it's going to activate the motor regeneration, the brake regenerative braking. And it also has motor inhibitors built in. So if I'm going along, pedaling, and I'm trying to make an emergency stop, slam on the brakes, it's going to cut power to the motor immediately, which is great because it's going to ensure the shortest possible stopping distance. It's kind of like a safety feature, in my opinion. And for a bike like this that has this really kind of sensitive and responsive torque sensor, it's not going to be as crucial because really, whenever I let off the pedals here and stop putting pressure on them, the motor cuts off really quick anyways. However, it's still a good safety feature, and I always appreciate it when electric bikes do have that functionality. Down here, on the front wheel, again, 22 inches by 1.5 inch wheels here. It's got 140 millimeter mechanical brake here in the front. And then in the back, there is a caliper brake right here. So I dig that, you know, they only have one brake, one disc brake, and it's good that they put it in the front because obviously that's where most of the stopping power comes from. However, I wish that they did have a disc brake in the back as well, just to increase the stopping power even more. I would say the stopping power, even with this setup, it's ample. Like it's not, you know, overly powerful, but it's not underpowered as well. It's really just enough, I think, even for me, again, 190 pounds, like I feel like this is enough stopping power, so that's cool. Rigid forks here in the front, aluminum, no suspension in the back, this is a hardtail. And with these smaller tires, 22 inches by 1.5 inches, they don't have a whole lot of air volume, so they don't have a whole lot of suspension qualities to this, the tires don't, and this makes for a bumpy ride overall. Like the bumps are really pronounced in this bike, and after riding it for more than 10 miles or so, like it does for me start to get uncomfortable. So again, just going back to like what I think this bike should be used for, is just like shorter distances, like smaller commutes, going to the grocery store. I don't think this is really something that's gonna be like, you know, a long-term commuter, like 20 miles each way, something like that. The batteries here again are in the top tube of the frame. This is a 42 volt system, about 240 watt hours of juice in these things. So that's definitely a little bit below average. However, they are internal. The wires are internal. The look is really dope in my opinion. It's just a stealthy, under the radar electric bike. I mean, even the motor is black, the spokes are black, they blacked out the nipples here. It's just like, this thing is really well matched, and I really dig that. However, so that's like the biggest pro, I think, to having the batteries internal here in the top tube. However, look, that means that I have to charge the batteries along with the bike. So I can't, you know, store this bike somewhere and then keep the batteries in a cool, dry location maybe, because I can't take them out of the bike. So that kind of might be difficult for some folks depending on where you guys live. It also means, you know, if I have an issue with these batteries, if one of them goes dead, I need to replace them, I'm probably gonna have to send this whole bike back, as opposed to just like swapping out the battery pack for like a removable battery pack that a lot of electric bikes have. So, you know, again, just kind of pros and cons to having everything, but overall, I do like that the batteries here are kind of internal in the top tube. It really makes for just a clean looking electric bike, in my opinion, super stealthy. But like I said, yeah, the overall capacity here at about 240 watt hours is a little below average. So that's why I do like that we've got this regenerative braking. But on the highest pedal assist mode here, pedal assist level 5, like I was getting around 15 miles or so. And if I wanted to put it in the lowest pedal assist mode, I was getting around 30 miles or so, which is not bad. It's not bad at all. So let's talk about the display here. So this is a, see if I can get this a little more balanced. There we go. So the display is interesting. So in order to access this bike, to turn it on, there's two ways to do it. There's a key fob where you can just click it. Let me see if I have my keys with me here. Yeah. Okay, so there's a little key fob, looks like this. All I have to do is just, once it's synced, I can just press this button and it's gonna turn on or off the bike. The other way to turn on or off the bike and to get into the settings is going to be through the Pure Cycles app. Okay, so once the app is booted up, I have to connect to the bike by pressing the connect button in the bottom right, and then I can lock the bike, and you'll see the display goes dead. It says hi, actually just turned off. So if I press lock again, unlock, it comes back to life, and you'll see there's a letter P up there, and then two kind of bars at the bottom. There's a couple different modes here. We got bike mode, smart mode, eco mode, and power mode. Bike mode is, you know, the pedal assist is turned off. Smart mode is it's trying to be intelligent. Eco mode is kind of the lowest power assist setting, and then power is obviously the highest pedal assist setting. I have been leaving it in power just because, again, 250 watt motor, it's not going to be super powerful, and it is still pretty efficient. You know, 250 watts, that's kind of a power sipper of a motor, so I don't feel bad leaving it in the power setting. But again, if I do want more miles out of this thing, I'll go ahead and just tone it down, and I'll put it in the eco mode just to, you know, give me some more range on this. Some other things you can do in the settings here is I can track this bike. So I can see where my bike is. You'll see I'm right by the Rockland Police Department. It doesn't say Quarry Park right there, the green area. Okay, so it's telling me exactly where I am because this bike has GPS built into it, which is, again, pretty dope. So that means I can track this bike wherever it goes, and it's also got a theft system, an anti-theft system built in. So if this bike is locked and armed, if somebody jostles it or physically moves it too far from where it's parked, I'll get an alarm sent to my phone telling me, hey, somebody's trying to take your bike. Really cool feature. I also think that this is a cool feature if I want to like loan this bike out to like maybe a kid or something, and I want to just make sure that they're going in a safe area, check up on them after an hour or so. You know, I can open the app and just see where they're at. So a lot of different options here with this, and I kind of like that here. Now, the only thing I'm not super fond of is with the app and the key fob. Again, that's the only way to turn this thing on. So if I'm out on the road, my cell phone dies and the bike shuts off, if it times out, if I don't have a cell service, if I lose my key fob, there's no way to turn this bike on, on the bike. There's no on button here. So definitely something to keep in mind. If you've got low battery on your phone before you're heading out, maybe charge it up, bring a charger with you so you can charge it if you need to. But back to the display here. So you can see the different pedal assist settings, what level I'm in, by the letter that's going to be up here. Again, it's going to be the S, the E, the P, or the E. So we're in power mode right here, and there's going to be 2 bars. The top bar is going to be how much battery is left. So this is going to be a 7-bar battery indicator. Not very precise, but more precise than like a 4-bar or a 5-bar, I guess. However, I prefer to have the percentage indicators. And what's cool is if I go back here, let's see if it'll sync back up real quick. You'll see on the kind of bottom right there, it says battery percent is 100%. So on the app, I actually have a percentage indicator. And then the other thing is, so this bottom bar is going to be the speed. So there's not actually a speedometer in like miles per hour or kilometers per hour. It's in dots per hour, which again, not very precise, not really a good way to figure out how fast I'm going exactly. So if I wanted to know really my speed, I would probably get like a mount for my phone, and I would just put it right there on the handlebars to just to give me some more information there. Now what I can do with this display is I can change the pedal assist mode by tapping this little section on the bottom, this oval section. It's actually touch sensitive. And if I tap it, you'll see it'll change mode. So that's kind of cool. It's a little touch sensitive bar, right? That's pretty dope. If I do a long press on it, it'll turn on and off the front headlamp. I've noticed it really is it working? It really hasn't been working for me, that function. Yeah, it's not working. I think that's how you're supposed to do it, but how I've been turning on and off the headlamp is in the settings on the phone. That's how I've been doing it. So again, can't turn this off with this, but I can switch different modes. And the one thing I will say about this is in order to switch modes, this bike has to be at a standstill. So I can't be moving while I'm switching pedal assist settings. And I found that, like, I would like to be able to switch on the fly. Sorry, I'm like super sweaty here, it's so hot. Oh my goodness. Again, like a billion degrees. Okay, but I would like to be able to switch on the fly because like if I'm going up a steep, like if I want to keep this thing in the eco mode to save battery and I have a steep hill coming up, I don't want to lose my speed by having to stop and then put it in power mode to go up the hill. It'd be nice to just be able to switch into power mode on the fly. So minor complaint, but again, just something that I wanted to point out really all the different features that I'm seeing here with this bike, kind of just my experience with it overall. But going back to kind of these proprietary features, is this really kind of just some of the interesting points here is, one thing I like about this is also the saddle, the release for the saddle. It's a tool release, so I can't adjust it on the fly. However, it just looks really cool. Like it sinks right into the frame. I haven't seen this before, something like this, and it does a really good job not of just securing the seat post for the vertical height, but it also really grips onto it tightly and keeps it from moving laterally, which is a problem that I've found with some of the quick release levers. So yeah, I like that a lot. It looks cool. In the back here, there is a tail light, and what's cool about this is when the lights are on, if I hit the brakes, this tail light will actually get brighter, just like a car headlamp. And that's, again, another like safety feature, I think, because sometimes it's hard for other pedestrians, for other bicyclists, cars, whatever, to really know when a bike is slowing down. So having that thing get brighter is great. Now, lateral visibility on this bike, visibility still overall, I think is going to be kind of low. The black frame, they do have different, 3 different options now for colors: silver, black, and like a gray. Or no, sorry, silver, black, and I think it's like a white. It's like a white gray. So something like the white grayish color and the silver is going to be more visibility than this black frame, which is going to blend into the night. And again, also, like I said, not a whole lot of lateral visibility here. There's no reflectors in the spokes. So I've really been looking into like accessories and stuff to kind of increase my visibility while I'm riding at night, because I do like riding at night. So like this Lumos helmet is one way to just kind of increase visibility. It's got lights in the back and the front, and it just kind of like, if I have it on, it'll blink, and then when I turn my head, it's kind of like having better lateral visibility. The lights also kind of wrap around. So there's a bunch of different helmets now that are out with lights in them. That's just one of them. That's one that I've been using. Let's see what else. So we got this, back to this chainring real quick. There is an aluminum guard here on this, and that's kind of nice because it's going to help keep the chain from popping off towards the outside. And it's also going to help protect the teeth a little bit if I do, again, strike somehow on a curb or a stair, if I'm walking it down, whatever. It's just gonna help protect the teeth here on the chain ring. This is, the chain guard, but there is not a chain guide on the other side. So this chain is a little bit more susceptible to popping off towards the inside. I haven't had any issues with derailment, but I always like to see a chain guide if possible, or at least just a double-sided kind of chain ring guard right here. So yeah, I think we have covered just about everything for this bike. I think it's time to take this thing out for a ride and show you what this bike looks like in action. All right, so this first clip, I'm just carrying the bike down a couple of stairs. I wanted to actually include that in this shot just to show you guys, this is pretty easy to carry because it is only 37 pounds and it's pretty well balanced as well. So this is just a shot facing backwards, looking at the bike, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what this bike looks like in action with the Pure Cycles Volta 8-speed. And you'll see that actually, even though it's only a 250 watt motor, it picks up speed pretty quickly. Again, it's not going to be a powerhouse of motors. It's a power setter for sure, but it's peppy enough to get me going quickly and even to help out, a fair amount when I'm going up, steep hills. And this shot is just going to be kind of almost a profile shot, just kind of looking at the bike from the side. Again, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what this thing looks like in action. I'm just going around the same area here, just kind of in a big circle, just riding around, getting different shots for you guys. You can kind of hear the motor in this shot. And yeah, so you'll see I kind of took that little jump right there. Probably not the best idea for this bike because, it's no suspension, it's rigid front forks, no seat post suspension, no rear suspension. But I wanted to kind of show you guys that, look, even though there's no suspension on this bike, because it's so light, it's, like I was saying, it's really zippy, really nimble, and it's really easy to just kind of handle and throw back and forth, bunny hop, go over curbs and stuff like that. So if you're the type of person who wants to kind of throw a bike around, zip through cars, stuff like that, this would probably be a good choice for you. Alright, this is the derailleur here in action. Just going to switch through the gears. And this is to try to give you guys an idea of what the motor sounds like at close range and to see how quickly it activates when I start and stop pedaling. It's a little bit deceiving here. The camera's picking up some of the higher frequencies. It's much quieter than this in real life. Also, you'll hear that it sounds like the motor is activated when I'm not pedaling for a while, and that's typically because I'm actually using the brake to slow down going down a hill, and that's the regen braking still activating the motor. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for the Pure Cycles Volta 8-speed review. Hope you guys dug this review. Quick couple points to recap before I head out here. This is a really cool bike, I think, for people who want to go shorter distances, who are going to be limited on space. Again, that compact frame, the smaller 22-inch tires, that smaller capacity battery, the smaller kind of basket in the front, this all just kind of says to me like, hey, take me on shorter distances. Not to mention the fact that we've got no suspension in the front and no seat post suspension or suspension in the rear. So vibration can get a little much over time, but this is a great bike, I think, for people who are traveling, again, shorter distances. It's just that kind of shorter wheelbase makes it a real nimble, real zippy bike. It's really fun to ride. And at $19.99, that's what the base price for this bike is. It's kind of on the upper end of the affordable level, I would say, but I do think that with just the design of this, you're still getting quite a lot. It's just a really unique bike. Everything's internally routed, internal batteries, got that cool gearless hub motor, just a lot of cool stuff here. So yeah, hope you guys dug this review. Hope it was a nice way to kind of just unplug from the world for a little bit, geek out on an electric bike. And if you are going out to ride, have fun and ride safe.